Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're backed up against the wall again. Another brick in the wall. If you know any other good wall jokes, you can put them down
Off
there.
the wall.
Off the wall. Or Vans. Off the wall.
No,
Or
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's Michael Jackson.
Anyway, Canto 4, Chapter 23, Text 21.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 21. When Queen Archie saw that her husband, who had been so merciful to her, and the earth no longer showed symptoms of life, she lamented for a little while and then built a fiery pyre on top of a hill and placed the body of her husband on it. Cheapers. Purport. After seeing all the life symptoms in her husband stop, the queen lamented for a while. The word kinchit means for a little while. The queen was completely aware that her husband was not dead, although the symptoms of life and action, intelligence and sense perception had ceased, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 2.13, Dehe no asmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tata dehantara prapte adira tatara namuyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Well, there you go. There you go. So what she was understanding was that the dead body that she saw before her was simply matter, and it was gone, and it never was her husband, and he's left her and hopefully gone back to the spiritual world, like we all hope. And then she appreciates her, but I need to do whatever rituals there are out of respect for this spiritualized body. Spiritualized because it was always absorbed in doing service for the Lord. And she disconnected from any, I guess, like prolonged material attachments and depression and longing. It does say she did lament for a while, which is also interesting. And
a little while.
Yeah, but it's important because sometimes when you're neophyte or fanatic, you can be like, anyway, whatever, grandma's dead, whatever. No, there is some natural feeling. And you're not going to be able to interact and see that person in that form. So it's natural. But then she understands that, okay, he's gone now. But I'm impressed that she placed his body on top of the funeral pyre.
Yeah, I mean, that almost sounds quite barbaric, really.
I meant in terms of her strength, but yeah.
Yeah,
I
was kind of getting that, but I was also thinking if you describe that, like, even now to, like, people, they'll be like, she put her husband's body in a fire. It sounds demonic, you know, it sounds like, you know.
No.
Maybe not to an engine.
Yeah, it doesn't. It sounds quite normal.
Yeah, but to all the other people.
Non-engines.
Yeah, which is the other 3/4 of the planet. Okay. Next paragraph. When a living entity transfers from one body to another, a process generally known as death, a sane man does not lament, for he knows that the living entity is not dead, but is simply transferred from one body to another. The queen should have been afraid of being alone in the forest with the body of her husband, but since she was a great wife of a great personality, She lamented for a while, but immediately understood that she had many duties to perform. Thus, instead of wasting her time in lamentation, she immediately prepared a fiery pyre on top of a hill, and then placed the body of her husband on it to be burned. Yeah. So, changing from one body to the next, that's what happens at the time of death. Just no need to lament, no need to get all upset or worked up. That's just what happens. Unless, of course, that soul in that body is Krishna conscious, and then that soul goes back to, basically moves on to another spiritual location, shall we say. So, thus, instead of wasting her time in lamentation, she immediately prepared a fiery pyre. So, yeah, your point, perfect, that sometimes we can, lamentation can overwhelm us, and then we spend days and years and months, and of course every person is different, they will need a different amount of time. So it's not that we don't mourn, it's not that we don't lament, but we allow that to happen, and then we still have to move on. Otherwise, 20 years later, people are like, and it's just like, well, that was a long time ago. Have you not moved on from that? No, because I was just hearing in talk by Mahatma Prabhu that the mind just grapples onto things, holds on to them, and then we carry them with us like ropes or chains or anchors, that we're trying to drag through life, always being held back by all these things on the mind.
Final paragraph. Maharaj Prithu is described here as Dayita. For not only was he the king of the earth, but he treated the earth as his protected child. Similarly, he protected his wife also. It was the duty of the king to give protection to everyone, especially to the earth or land which he ruled, as well as the citizens and his family members. Since Prithu Maharaj was a perfect king, he gave protection to everyone, and therefore he is described here as Dayita. Now this is interesting, because I was going to make a point on the back of what you read, and then I looked, because it's a small paragraph, so I looked at what I was reading, so it kind of brings it up, and it's a point of protection. And the reason I was going to mention it on the back of what you read was because the first two paragraphs are talking about his Archie, Queen Archie, basically being left alone now in the forest, because her husband has gone, I guess, back to Godhead, and she's therefore having to deal with the funeral arrangements and deal with the fact that she is now a woman alone in the forest and in the world and without shelter. So I was going to make that point that don't seem quite nice, actually. And then Prabhupada points out in the third paragraph how Maharaj Prithu is such a great protector, and then I'm thinking, well, if I was his wife, I'd be like, well, where's the protection now? I'm just saying, that's how it came for me, and it's like, yeah, I'd be like, oh my God, and right at that moment, and then who knows, we'll see. Normally the custom then was to step onto the funeral pyre with the husband.
Which she does.
That's a spoiler alert right there, isn't it?
Well, if
Sorry,
we move on to
everybody.
the next verse, then it won't be a spoiler.
Oh, now I have to hurry up and not talk, but anyway.
No one's telling you to hurry up.
Is that what he said? But anyway, so that's why I'm reading that, gosh, she had to put his body on the food. I guess I'm speaking from my point of view. It's like, wow, where's that shelter gone? Where's that protection gone? And now I'm all alone.
She's, feeling like that. You can't really, everyone's going to die, the guy eventually had to go. And people are left behind, but it doesn't mean that when he wasn't personally present, he didn't provide the shelter that was required. Correct?
What shelter? She's in the forest by herself.
Yeah, now that he's passed.
She ain't got a pet dog, like a Doberman.
Okay. Text 22. After this, the queen executed the necessary funerary functions and offered oblations of water. After bathing in the river, she offered obeisances to various demigods situated in the sky and the different planetary systems. She then circumambulated the fire, and while thinking of the lotus feet of her husband, entered its flames.
Damn.
Purport. The entrance of a chaste wife into the flames of the pyre of her dead husband is known as sahagamana, which means dying with the husband. This system of sahagamana had been practiced in Vedic civilization from time immemorial. Even after the British period in India, this practice was rigidly observed, but soon it degraded to the point that even when the wife was not strong enough to enter the fire of her dead husband, the relatives would force her to enter. Yeah, I guess it doesn't take much to just shove somebody in a fire, huh? Thus, this practice had to be stopped, but even today there are still some solitary cases where a wife will voluntarily enter the fire and die with her husband. Even after 1940, we personally knew of a chaste wife who did in this way.
Died.
Oh, died. Yes. Yeah. So that's interesting. It's like anything. There's such a powerful spiritual significance and level of revelation involved with that act. Not, having said that, not that that's something I would necessarily be like, all right, she's died, throw her body on the fire, and, I'm going to go in after it. If you put the shoe on the other foot, it's kind of like...
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if you understood where I was going with that, but yeah. So then, but because of degradation of consciousness, degradation of social structure, degradation in general, people see this like, okay, your husband's dead, then you die also. Just fling her in there. And there's probably extreme ulterior motives to all of that, especially if the family members, because whatever he's got, if all of a sudden she's left to the stuff, then it becomes hers. And they've lost out because, then she's not going to give the money to them or whatever. People are so materially motivated like that. So.
And also from that cultural point of view, growing up, I mean, I grew up in London, not in India, but it was very, very traditional, and also because of the relatives in India, it's like if there was a family member who was a lady that was widowed, it was genuinely treated like her life is over because her husband's gone. It was genuinely treated. And even one auntie that was in London, it wasn't even, in India, forget it, then it was genuinely like, you're done, And, okay, no one was put in the fire, but they wore white and there was no life. If you wore any speck of colour in your outfit, it was like scandalous. My mum and my aunties would be like, oh, look what she's wearing. Now, there was one auntie that was in London, and she must have been, I don't know, late 20s at the most. Actually, must have been more than 30s. Super young, and she's never remarried to this day, and it was treated like that. I remember as kids, because you go and you have to go to the house and sit during at least 2 weeks for morning period, and she was bedridden. That's how for her my life is over. She couldn't even get out of the bed, literally could not get out of the bed, and it was treated like that. And my mum and aunties were speaking like that was the end of her life. And I couldn't get it, from that growing up in that Western. I don't understand. Like, it was no concept of, okay, but life goes on. You could go to university and get education. For example, she is educated. Meaning you could do so many things. You can travel, you can this. She had 2 boys as well. You've got 2 boys to bring up. And it was treated like that. It was really interesting. And she made a vow when she got herself together, and so she was out of it for a long time, that I'm not going to wear white saris first of all. And that was like, wait, what? I think I'm not going to wear saris. And she was just wearing, for the most part, Western clothes. She was working offices and that, and it was considered quite revolutionary and very like, what is she doing? You know, and then she cut her hair, and and to this day she's very prim and proper and very, you know, keeps herself very looking attractive and that. No other reason. Not like she never got remarried, and that in itself would have been scandalous, especially because she has 2 boys. But it's interesting reading this and that, seeing that, like you said, it's considered you're done, your life, what else, you know, you got to go, your husband's gone, and that mentality, and that's open to a lot of abuse, unfortunately, as well, of women, and how they're treated and suppressed and that. So not nice,
all these
not
things.
nice. But it's born out of, like you said, actually a very high spiritual principle, you know?
Originally,
degraded.
like I understand, so many things. Yeah.
Like the caste system is degrading now, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like Krishna propagates something what we see now. Yeah, it's interesting, you know?
That it is. Okay, I think we can finish there.
All right.
People have been degraded enough.
Oh, sorry everybody for degrading you.
Alright, so thank you all very much for tuning in to another rendition of the Bhagavatam Bites. And beautiful section and some food for thought. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.